So I'm starting recording now. So let's start off with by jumping into our Revit folder here. Okay. So once we do that, let's go to our brewery.rvt file. Okay. We've got all these other ones in here, but let's focus on the brewery first. So let's just double click on it. It should open it in Revit 2018. Is that what you guys have, or do I need to send like something else? Is 2018 acceptable for you guys?
Actually, nobody has Revit installed in the PC, so we won't be able to open any of those files.
Okay. Um, well, I'll show you how to do it because that's kind of a bummer because you guys are you guys need to get Revit installed on your computers if you're gonna be BIM coordinators because um, that's gonna be uh, that's going to be ground zero for everything. You're going to have to get your initial models from Revit. There's going to be times where you're going to have IFC files or CAD files or something like that. Maybe even a point cloud here or there. um, there's going to be times where that happens, but for the most part, you're going to be exporting files from Revit or you're going to be receiving files from Revit. And a lot of times, especially if you're working on like a or a design bid build project, you're going to be working. You're going to be the person that has to get everything out of your Revit model. Okay, so if you guys don't have it, okay, that's fine. Um, but I'm still going to go through it, and this is something like if you're a BIM coordinator that you're gonna have to deal with a lot. So please pay attention while I guess I just demo this. Okay. Now next question: does everybody have Navisworks 2018 Manage?
Correct.
Okay, good. So okay, great. So here's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so Um, I've opened up my model. Um, we'll look at the floor plans here. Basically, you can see this is a very, very basic model. It's got a couple of rooms. There's a brewery up here, or there's a bar area up here. There's a brewery area up here. Okay, we've got a couple of shafts. We've got a couple of bathrooms or storage rooms or whatever. So this is what we're dealing with, I guess, right here with this model. Okay. Um, what we did was we had this we threw this kind of party that we call Bim and Beer, and
Hi,
part of it.
Michael. It's Priscilla.
Hey, Priscilla.
Sorry, I was on the wrong call.
That's okay. Um, okay, so yeah, so I guess I'll reset for you. Basically, we're going to start in Revit today. I was informed that no one has Revit on their machine. I really suggest that you guys get that. Hopefully, you guys have like a network license or two of that so that you can all install it, but then if you're not using it, then no big deal. um, it can kind of um, go around based on whoever's using it. But so what we're looking at is and you need to make sure that you have the you've downloaded the folder that I sent yesterday, and inside of that folder, if you have Revit, there's the Revit folder, okay? And that has all of our Revit files in it, okay? And so what I'm going to show you
So,
now
so
is,
Michael, I have Revit, but it's not letting me. It's saying that it's a later version.
okay,
I'm
what
able to
version do
open
you
it.
guys have?
I have Revit 2017.
Okay. I'll okay, like once I get out of Revit, I'll send you guys. I'll try to hunt down my 2016 file so that you guys can maybe test how to do this later. But that's not a big deal. I still have all the files in there. So we should be able to go. But do you have Navisworks? You do have Navisworks 2018, correct? Everybody has that, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
No, actually, my computer says Navisworks 2016.
Okay. I think my files should work. If not, I'll see what I can do about saving them back. But
Okay.
anyway, um, okay, so yeah, so we're just looking at our floor plan right here in Revit. We can see that it's a basic building. There's a couple of levels. There's a high roof. There's a low roof. Um, we can see the site. Then I've got a couple of 3D views in here. So I'm just going to click on my 3D view right here. If I don't have one of these, then I can always just go to the View tab and then pick 3D view right here. Okay, and then that's going to show me basically everything. It's going to show me the default 3D view for the project. Okay, so I don't want to really modify that the default 3D view. So what I'm gonna do is I just clicked on it, I right clicked, and then I hit duplicate view. Okay, so then I'm gonna rename that. So I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna hit rename, and we're gonna call this Navis dash architecture, ARCH. Okay, so I've got my first view started. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mess with the visibility graphics. Okay, so I'm going to do that because basically I want to control what comes out of my model. Right now I'm going to be seeing everything if I were to export it, and that's not necessary. I don't need to see everything. So I can basically control what I see and how much I see if I click on the visibility graphics overrides over here and hit edit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go down the list here, and I'm actually going to select all of these. So you see I click this button, and then I'm just going to hit the checkbox. Okay, and so that basically what I'm saying right now is I don't want to see anything, but that's obviously not the case. I do want to see some things, so I'm going to say I'm just going to pick architectural objects. So we've got ceilings, I've got curtain panel systems, curtain wall, let's see, doors. We'll select those. Now we'll come back down here. See electrical fixtures, sure. We want to see floors. We might want to see furniture, but for this one, I definitely don't want to see it because it's just going to be a waste for us. Let's see, we don't need to see any of those. Pipes, planting, plumbing fixtures. Sure, we may need to see plumbing fixtures. We want to see railings, ramps. I'm going to keep roofs off. I want to see shaft openings. I want to see stairs. We'll stay away from the structural stuff. And then we've got windows. Okay, so I hit apply, and basically this is what shows up. Okay, so why did I do that? So the reason that I did that is because again, I want to minimize the size of my eventually minimize the size of my Navisworks model. So I want to show just the data that I need to see, no more, no less. Okay. So if we're coordinating inside the building, I don't need to see the civil or the top topography, right? If we're just coordinating this, the north part of the building here, then I just need to show that, right? Same thing if we're just coordinating the south side of the building, then then I just need to show that. So if I wanted to just show one side of the building or whatever, I could section things. So to do that, I hit the section box here, and when I do that, this little section box shows up, and it's really pretty easy to use. You just click on it, and then you click the little triangles. Okay. So if I just needed to see just this northern area of the building, I could do that. Same thing if I needed to see, if I needed to like just see one particular level, I could do that as well, right? For this, for the sake of this demonstration, we're not going to actually use a section box, but let me tell you, typically you're gonna want to use this a lot because this is gonna again really limit the size of the exported file that you're going to use for Navisworks. Okay. So again, that's the section box right here. You just click that little checkbox. This box comes on, and then you can edit it by clicking on these triangles and dragging. Okay. So, okay, so great. So I've got my architectural file, I think pretty much how I want it. There's one last thing I need to do. Um, I need to make sure that I've got the detail level set to fine. Okay, so you see that right here. It's the very last little icon down here at the bottom. Typically, it's set as medium. You want it to be set at fine so that that will make sure that anything that you could possibly need from your model is going to show up in there. Okay, this is especially important with plumbing because one thing that you'll notice is sometimes if you export like a plumbing file from maybe an MEP model, you'll notice that if it's set to just medium, then everything's going to come in as line work, and so that's not what you want. You want 3D stuff in Navisworks so that you can clash in 3D, you can review in 3D, you can visualize in 3D. You don't want to have line work in there. So um, if you're working with a plumbing file, or if really it's just best practice to do fine level of detail. Okay, it would probably be okay if if we did that. If we just did medium for architectural or structural or even ductwork, but for sprinkler, for anything small, anything that's like, let's say 3 inches or smaller, we would want to have fine detail on. Okay. So I'm just going to keep it on here just as reminders to show you how I did it. Okay. So we've got our architectural file taken care of. So let's now do our structural as well here. Okay, so if I go back to my 3D view, we'll see. Well, if I hide any of these, okay, so I can select items and then I can choose to hide them here. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to hide the roof here. All right, so we can see that there's also structural steel in this model. So let's since we've already got this one named pretty much the same way, let's just right click on it, hit duplicate view, and then duplicate. Okay, so it did that. We've got our like a copy of our architectural one. So now let's just rename this. We'll call this steel. And let me make sure that's the naming convention that I have. Yep. Okay, great. Okay, so again, we're just redoing the workflow here. So I'll go. We've got it. We've renamed our view. I'm going to come back over here to visibility graphics, hit edit, and this time instead of picking all of the architectural elements, I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick all of the structural elements. So I'm going to pick columns, and let's see. I'll come all the way down here, and I'll go to anything that says structural, and let's see. I'll make it double check. I already put stairs in my old one and ramps. I could put roofs in if I want. I think I'll go ahead and do that. I might as well. And I'll hit apply. And actually, I've changed my mind. Okay, so I think I'm not gonna have roofs on because for the sake of demonstration today, it'll be a pain in the butt. so um so there we go. So I've got my structural in. So I've got my slab, I've got my beams, my columns, I've got all that in there. Okay, so I've named it how I wanted it. The detail level is at fine for both architecture and steel drawings. So now all I have to do is export. Okay. So all we have to do to export is go to the add-ins tool, then go to the external tools right here, and then pick Navisworks. Okay. We could also, if we wanted to, like if you guys have ever used glue, has anybody in the class ever used glue before?
No.
Okay. Well, do you guys know what glue is? Do you have do you or I guess yeah, like have you guys seen a demo for it or anything?
No, I haven't, but my superintendent advised me to download the app. It so that way I can like see the model on my
Okay.
app out in the field.
Okay, great. Cool. So you guys are using it just as a model viewer in the field. That's fantastic. Um,
Right.
so glue, basically you can think of glue as a very lightweight version of BIM3 or of Navisworks. Okay. So I'll go over that, I guess, a little bit more at the end once you guys have a pretty good understanding of Navisworks. Um, but anyway, just be aware that you can glue data, or you can push data to glue using the glue button here. Of course, you have to have a license to do it. I'm assuming what you guys are doing is you're using Box or Dropbox, and then you're exporting that file to the glue viewer. That's perfectly fine. That's a typical I guess use case for people that just want to view models in the field. Um, but yeah, if you guys are on a glue project, then this is the easiest way to push data up into BIM 360 Glue. But we're not doing that today. We're just working in Navisworks. So all you do, you just hit the external tools, and then you pick Navisworks here. Okay, so it's pretty much that simple. You just pick that button, and then basically you navigate to the folder that you want to go to. So this is actually the wrong one. I'll go to the Yates folder here, and then I'll go to my Navisworks folder here. And so I want to export this view right here, so we'll just call this Navis-Arch. I'll click my Navisworks settings right here. Okay, typically it doesn't take that long, but that's okay. Okay, is it just hiding? There we go. It is hiding from me. Okay, so when I do this, you can see I've got a whole bunch of different options here. Okay, so typically what I like to have all of my element IDs selected, all of my parameters, and then element properties converted. Okay, I want to make sure that all three of those are checked. Okay. Um, I also, I want to have everything else checked here, like convert room as an attribute, convert URLs, use shared coordinates. This one's probably the most important because this will ensure that, you know, it's using the same coordinates that the Revit model did. It's not going to just put it off in space somewhere and then you're going to have to position anything. It's asking, do you want to divide the file into levels? And what do you want to export? The current view, export room geometry. You can have this one on or off. I'm going to turn this one off just for right now. Just because since I'm not teaching search sets, it's going to kind of make things kind of difficult for me. So we'll turn room geometry off. But then next, there's the faceting factor. So if you guys were doing the faceting factor would be 1. I'll tell you a little bit about this right here. Okay, so this is something that just came up for me. But I'm working on a project right now for a construction company in Atlanta, and basically there are curved walls and curved objects in everywhere. Okay, so um, we're having to model, design, coordinate this thing at a high level of development. And when you're exporting from Revit into Navisworks, sometimes those curved objects don't come in as truly curved lines. They'll come in as straight lines that are kind of faceted, so that they look to be like they're curved lines, but actually they're just a bunch of straight lines that are kind of diagonal. Okay, so if you up the faceting factor, then that's going to improve I guess, the, for lack of a better term, resolution of the wall. Okay, so that's why I have this at 10. So if you're ever dealing with curved walls, you need to pick the Navisworks options and then pick the faceting factor. Okay, so I've got everything how I want it. I'll just hit OK, and so I'll just hit save. And yes, I want to replace it. Typically, if you're doing this for the first time, it's not going to ask you that. So once you do that, you're seeing, okay, all of my objects are being exported. So the file is going right now. Okay, so I'm going to do that again because I need to send the steel file. Actually, file Navisworks 2018. That'll be steel. So I may have actually accidentally exported the steel file as the architectural file, but no big deal. I'll show you guys how to export one more time. Okay, so now to export anything, you just click on the view, make sure that that's the view that you want in your, right here in your viewport. Then pick external tools, and then hit Navisworks. Okay, then if you've already exported it, then pick the the exact name, and then it's going to export it as an NWC file. So yes, I want to replace it. Okay. All right. So there we go. That's it. That's basically what you need to do to get your data out of Navisworks. Or sorry, out of Revit and into Navisworks, okay? That's the most typical thing that you're going to have to do, especially if you're working on design build projects, or I mean, really, if you're working with the architect, you're typically going to have to do that. They're gonna, they're gonna give you the model, and what you do with it after that is up to you. That's typical. Okay. So, all right. So we've got that. So let's close this model. We can save it. I'll just hit that. Yes, I want to save. Okay. So we've exported effectively from Revit to Navisworks. Okay. So now let's just go ahead and open up Navisworks 2018. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see here. Um, I'll see if I can. I think these are my 2016 files for this project. So if that doesn't work, I'll have hopefully a zip file ready that I can send out to everybody. Alrighty. Okay, so why isn't Navisworks opening? There we go. All right, it's opening it twice. All right, so while everybody's opening Navisworks, again, what we're going to go over today in Navisworks is basic movement. We'll learn how to create viewpoints. We'll learn how to do measurements. We'll learn how to create sections. We will. I'll show you. I've got some search sets already loaded. I'll show you guys how to import search sets. Um, we'll also use a we will also use this thing called an appearance profiler, which will color code everything. That's based off of the search sets that I've created. So we'll color code everything. I'm not going to necessarily show you guys how to do that, but I've already got like a quick tool for you that will allow you to do that. Okay, so yeah, let's see. All right, so um, alrighty, so let's start here. Okay, so does everybody have Navisworks open? I guess. See, shoot, I'm not. I don't have a hand raising functionality here, but I'm assuming everybody has Navisworks open. Hopefully you do. So first thing that we're going to do with Navisworks is we're going to hit the Home tab. Okay, and so when starting your project, there's really only one button that you need to worry about. That's this one right here, the append button. Okay, so let's just click right here and hit append. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to our desktop or wherever you saved that Yates construction or custom Navisworks training folder. We'll navigate to that, and then we will click on the Navisworks folder. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pick, say we want to see all files for file types right here. Okay, and then all we have to do is just click on the top one, then hold Shift and click on the bottom one. We want to select every single NWC file in here. Okay, so we've got architecture, cable tray, sprinkler, hot water, cold water, lights, mechanical, steel, storm. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different, let's just say, subcontractors or trades in this, for this model. Okay, so I've got that selected. I'll hit open. Okay, so it's going to load everything up. It shouldn't take very long. You can see it took hardly any time. It may take you guys a little bit longer, but it shouldn't take you very long. Okay, so um, now once we've got that done, let's come over here to the View tab. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up, like, we're going to customize how we view or I guess the tools that we're going to use in Navisworks. Okay, so first things first, we can decide if we want to show the grid. Okay, so you can see right here, if I have that on, then it's, the grid lines are going to show up. Okay, so if I click right here, then I can choose what I want to see. So if I just want to see the grid lines above me, I can pick that one. If I want to see just the ones below me, I can show that one. Okay, if I wanted to show all grid lines, I could do that. I definitely don't suggest that one because it'll just be kind of like way too many grid lines to see. Okay, you can also say, okay, I just want to see the ones that are directly above and below me. I'll show you guys what that looks like later, but that's the one that I want to pick. Okay, so we want it to look like that, and we want to make sure that show grid is selected. Okay, anybody have any questions there?
No.
Okay, so next, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our Windows button. Okay, so here are the things that we want to have, that we want to be able to that we want open. Okay, we want to have the Clash Detective. We don't need Timeliner for today, so I'll turn that one off. We also don't need Animator or Scripter. So we want to have Clash Detective. We want to have the selection tree. Since I'm gonna show you how to import sets, we want to have sets up. We want to be able to find items if we need to. We definitely want to have properties. We want comments open, and then we want saved viewpoints. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this up for a minute. And I want, because the annoying thing is you can, whenever you select or deselect one, the menu changes, or closes, I should say. So, and actually, one last one. Let's turn on the appearance profiler. Okay, because we're gonna do that one shortly. Okay, so I'll do that again. So we've got Clash Detective, Selection Tree, Sets, Find Items, Properties, Comments, Saved Viewpoints, and the Appearance Profiler. Okay, you guys probably don't have these, but this is just like an ancillary product that we partner with. So anyway, but please, make sure that you have that um, all of these selected, because we're gonna look at or use all of these at some point today, or most of them. And this is the typical workspace, I guess, for this is the typical coordination workspace, or that's what it looks like. Okay, so I'll give everybody like another minute or so to set that up. Okay, so is everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, so we've basically set that up. So now one last thing before we save our file. Let's click on this Navisworks button up here in the top, and then let's pick options. So again, I hit the Navisworks button and then options. And so when that comes up, you're going to see basically this the options editor come up. Okay, so you can customize just about anything in Navisworks. I'm just going to do a couple right here. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is uh, um, maximize the interface menu and then pick display units. Okay, so let's start. So how do you guys utilize measurements? Is it feet and inches? Is it just feet? How do you guys do it?
Feet and inches.
Okay, so just change whatever the linear units are to that, and then just pick this one right here. It'll be decimals if you do it like that. If you pick fractions, of course, it'll be in fractions. So you'll see like eighth of an inch, whatever. Okay, these are the typical ones. I always just use feet, but that's just because that was the way I was trained to do it. Um, I know that 5.56 is 5 foot 6 and 3/4 inches. So that was something that I was forced to learn in school. So I always work with feet, but we'll do feet and inch fractions here. Okay. So next, I never mess with angular units, but I do. One thing, I think decimal places, you shouldn't need any more than 3 decimal places. That's going to get you to the eighth of an inch, or maybe even the 16th of an inch. So really, all that you need is 3 decimal places and/or like the fractional display position of eighth of an inch. There's gonna rarely be an instance where you need to actually know something to the 16th of an inch. So um, all of those should be good enough for MEP coordination. Okay, so next, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do um, let's see, where is it? Um, okay, so we're gonna do go to the display menu. Just click on it. You don't need to actually. You can if you want to pick. Uh, you can maximize it, but really we're just going to be looking at the display. Okay, and what I want you guys to do is just pick system and then basic. Okay, so this is going to help us with. This is going to make sure that our markups show up better. If it's an Autodesk, then it's going to look like it's a dotted line, and we just want it to be. We don't want it to show up like that. So make sure that you've got that. Okay. So there's a ton of other functionalities in here. You can customize your navigation bars. You can customize. Let's actually do one more. Go to snapping right here on the interface. Okay. Let's make sure that we've got all three of these selected, because we want to be able to click on like a corner or a vertex or an edge if we want to. Okay, so yeah, we've got all kinds of different stuff in here. Um, file readers, this will be like, you can see this is exactly what the options were from when we were trying to export from Revit. So we can see that right there. So when we set that stuff up in Revit, that's exactly what this was. If there's some kind of specialty file, a lot of times it's going to be IFC. You can customize all that stuff as well. Same with DWGs. Okay, you can customize just about anything with them as well. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about, I guess, file types here while we've got these open. So if you look right here at file readers, if you maximize that um, that little menu right here, here's basically a snapshot of all of the different file types that Navisworks will allow. Okay, so the typical ones are NWCs. Those are Navisworks cache files. That's what if we look at the selection tree or whatever, if we look at our folder. That's what we exported from Revit, right? NWC, Navisworks cache file. Okay. It also takes, any other Navisworks file, so an NWF file or an NWD file. It takes both. It takes all of the above. It also takes like a DWG or anything that exports as a DWG. Okay. It also takes an IFC file. So this is something, typically if you've got someone that's working in Tekla or something like that, or in a non-Autodesk centric design program, then you'll probably be getting IFC files. I don't see it here, but yeah, you also have the ability for SketchUp files. Those are perfectly acceptable. Inventor files, Civil 3D files. Also, you see Leica, you see laser, you see all those things. Recap. So if you're dealing with a point cloud, you can view those in here as well. Okay. But there's all kinds of stuff. There's FBX. There's 3DM. So if you're using or 3DS, so like that's for Rhinos, I think. So just about any possible file that's a construction file, you can use it. You can see down here it says that you can use PDFs. Yeah, you can use PDFs. I don't recommend messing with PDFs in Navisworks. I recommend not using that at all. Okay, so anyway, so we've got that done. Let's hit OK. Okay, so I just brought up NWCs. So there's 3 different file types for Navisworks. Okay, that are Navisworks centric. The first one is an NWC. It's a Navisworks cache file. It's the model file that you get from Revit. It's the output file from Revit. Okay. Now, or I guess input file, I should say. It's the input file. It's the file that you bring into Navisworks so that you can review a model. Okay. The next one, the next 2 we're going to learn about right here are NWF and NWC. So what I want everybody to do is we're just going to save our model. So let's click on the Navisworks button up here up in the top left and then hit Save As. Okay, so when we do that, we're going to see we have the option to pick an NWF or an NWD. So let's pick NWF. Okay, so I'll rename this. We'll call this Yates. And actually, just to be consistent, I'll just make it all caps. Okay, so I'm saving this as the Yates.nwf. Okay, so what is an NWF? An NWF is a Navisworks file set file. And what it is, it's basically, you can think of it as, if you've ever worked in CAD to make it a comparison to CAD, it's a file that has links associated with it. So if I click on my selection tree here, all of these files in here are links. Okay, they're not actually embedded in this NWF file. They're just links. They're actually housed right here. So if we look at this, well, I'll show you in a second. So we've got that. So next, let's hit save as one more. Let's hit the Navisworks button and then hit save as again. And this time let's hit .nwd for file type. Okay. So this time, rather than save it as Yates.nwd, I'm gonna save this as Yates 18-05-02. Okay, so I'm basically what I'm doing right now is I'm saving a file of record. So I'm just gonna hit save right there. Okay, so I just saved a file of record. So let's take a look at this right here. Okay, so we've got our Navisworks file set file. That's basically our file that has all the linked objects in it. Okay, and then we've got our Navisworks document file that's basically like it's got all the files embedded in it. So this is our what we use for documentation. So for instance, whenever we're done with coordination for the day or for the week, we save our NWF file. Then we save a NWD file with today's date on it. That basic and basically that saves everything as a record of what we've done thus far onto this project. Does that make sense? So an NWD again is called a Navisworks document file. Okay, so there's file set, there's document, and then there's cache. You use file set, that's your living, working, breathing clash detection model. There's the NWD, which is a snapshot of a moment in time, and then there's the NWC, the Navisworks cache file, which is your model file that was exported from a source from an actual model. Okay. So you'll see again the file set file again because it's just links. It's only 3 kilobytes, but then the NWD it's 2 megabytes. So there's a big difference, especially if once we go on and we add data to this model, this file is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right. So now we've got all that done. Now let's we're working in our NWD now, so and we don't want that. So let's hit the Navisworks button, then pick open, and then let's reopen our NWF file. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're working off of just the Yates.nwf file. Okay, everybody following me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got so now I had us set up all these windows. Let's just say for sake of argument here that we've got I've got here's what maybe your desktop looks like. Okay, maybe you've got a whole bunch of these over here on the left that are tabs, right? You may have your comments down here on the bottom. You may have your save viewpoints that are actually popping up, and they may be over here on the right. You may even have some stuff that is floating around in space. Okay, so if it's floating around in space, that could be good, that could be bad. You may want to, let's say you want to push that over to another screen so that you've got more of a view space for in Navisworks to see your model. That's fine. But a good thing to do is to utilize I guess the functionalities inside of Navisworks. So that includes so if you've got a floating one that you don't want to have floating, if you've got like a floating panel that you don't want floating, just double click on the menu button or the menu, I guess the blue menu title, and that's gonna tie it to a side. That's gonna snap it. Okay. So now if you want to pin it to the workspace so that you can see it whenever you want to see it, you just hit the little space or the pin button here. You could, if like let's say you didn't mean to have this one open, you could just close it. So I'll do that with my find items. Okay, I don't actually want this one on there, so I'm just going to close it. Okay, so then you can see it's no longer on my tabs over here, so I can't do it. But if I want to pin it, then I just I click the pin button right next to the X. Same thing. If I want to unpin it, same thing. I just tap the pin button again, and then it goes away. It's still there if I want to use it, but I don't have to. So let's set up our project right now so that it looks just like mine. So we've got the selection tree, we've got the properties, and we've got the saved viewpoints open. Okay, once we've got that done, let's hit save. All right. So I'm going to go over a couple of things quickly with you guys. Before we get into like the nitty gritty of how to do things in Navisworks, what we're going to do first is we're going to import some search sets that I've already created. Okay, since we're not really going into search sets today, we'll just use ones that I've already got. So let's just hit sets. Let's click on the sets one. We can, if you want, you can pin it for the time being. Okay, so once we've got the sets window open, just click this button, the import export, and then let's hit import search sets. Okay, so let's navigate to our Yates folder, and look at that, beautiful. I've got an XML file that's named search sets in there for you guys. So let's just open it. Okay, so when it opens, okay, wow, we've got all this stuff in here, great, right? So I've pretty much gone and created a search set for just about it for just about everything. Let's not worry about that right now, but we're going to use them for a couple of things. So next, let's next go to the let's pick the appearance profiler. Okay, so again, it should be over here on the left. Just roll over this tab and then let's pin it. Okay. So next, let's hit load down here, and wow, look at that. We've in our Yates folder, we've got the appearance profiler dot dat. DAT. I don't know what a DAT file is. I'm sure it's some kind of, it's basically like a CSV or an XML file. Okay, so we've got that one. Let's just hit open right here. Okay, so when that happens, you can see all of this stuff right here pops up. Okay, so basically what I've gone and done is I've color coded 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour walls, beams, columns, everything in the model that I could think of. Okay, so if I want to color code everything that way, if I've got a specific coloring convention, then you guys can customize this. I've got it set up so that by set. So if I look right here, by set, it's gonna change. It's gonna customize that. So let's hit run. And so basically, it's gonna color code everything. So again, if I go back to this, what you'll see right here is that the 1 hour walls are yellow, the 2 hour walls are orange. There's not any 3 hour walls, but if there were, they'd be red. Like our beams and our columns are kind of rusty steel colored. The cable tray is teal. The domestic cold water and hot water piping, you can see that right here is red and blue. Doors are semi-transparent and they're brownish. We've got sprinklers that are orange. Light fixtures are yellow. The return duct is pink. Rooms are 100% transparent. Roofs are 50% transparent. And they're kind of a golden color. The slab is kind of like a greenish gray. Storm drains are a dark green. supply duct is light green. VAVs and mechanical equipment are purple. Windows are 50% transparent and teal. And then we've got exhaust duct, if there were any, it's blue. Okay, so we've got just about everything that we could, just about everything in the model is color coded. All right, so we've got that done now. So I've got a colored convention started. So if you guys have different colors that you guys use for different trades, you can mess with the appearance profiler. It's really easy to use. If we have time, I'll show you how to modify it at the end. Okay. Alrighty. So again, we've got our selection tree, our properties, our save viewpoints open. Okay. So let's save our model. Just save the NWF. And again, it's important that we're working in the NWF. Okay. So great. So we've got our model here. Let's learn how to move around in it. I'm just going to go over these quickly. Well, I guess let me open the question to you guys. Does everybody have a pretty clear understanding of how to move around in Navisworks, or do you want me to go over it again? So is that a yes?
It's,
Go ahead.
I mean,
No, it's good. I mean, I know how. I
I
don't
have
know
it.
about everybody else, but
Okay. I'll do some very brief stuff then, okay? So first things first, we've got our view cube up here. If we just tap on a corner, it's going to navigate to the corner. If we tap to the front, it's going to push it to the front. We can rotate 90 degrees if we want to. We can also rotate hitting the corners or the little arrows right here. I always like having I always like looking in plan view, looking north. So if I right click, if I roll over my view cube and then right click on the little house icon, I can change, whether I'm looking in perspective or orthographic view. Let's just make it orthographic for right now. Then let's zoom out right here just a little bit so that we see everything. Okay, and the way to do that is just you pick the little hand tool and then you use the mouse wheel to zoom out. So let's zoom out just so that we have just a little bit on. That's still showing. Okay, so just like that. Let's roll over um, uh, our view cube, right click on the house again, and then let's set this current view as our home view. So no matter what, if I'm off in space somewhere now, all right, so I don't know where my model is, I'm stuck, I can always just roll over my view cube, click on the home button, and it's going to take me back there. Okay. If I want to, I can right click over here into my saved viewpoints window and hit save viewpoint. And so I'm just going to call this plan view. Okay. If I wanted to, I could click on I could click on any of these folders and then, you know, I can maximize it and review each one. I don't have any need for any of these, so I'm just going to click and then hold shift and then click, and I'm just going to hit the delete button and delete all of them except for my plan view. So right now, this is the only view that I want. Okay, so next, we'll very quickly go over the pan tool. So the pan tool is one of my favorite tools. I call it the hand, but basically it works like this. If you click and you drag, it's going to pan over from whatever you clicked on. Okay, so for instance, if I click on this light, then it'll go over there. So even if I go past the model, you can see I can still move my mouse one way or the other. Okay, the mouse wheel, it zooms in and out. Okay. Next is the zoom window. So if I wanted to just quickly zoom in on this room, then I could do that. Same thing as before. The mouse wheel, if you use it, it'll let you zoom in and out. Okay, next is the orbit tool. Okay, so if I click on an area, it's going to allow me to orbit around that specific object. So before I clicked on this this light, I'll click on this one now, and then now I can kind of orbit around it. So that's the orbit tool. So same thing, if I wanted to, the mouse wheel is going to let me zoom in and out. Okay. Next, we've got the look around tool. So this one is the exact same but opposite of the orbit tool. So rather than orbit around something that I select, I'm just looking around from my viewpoint. Okay. So same thing as before. The the mouse wheel zooms in and out. Right. Next, we've got the walk tool. Okay. I call this the feet. I typically use the hands and the feet. That's pretty much all that I ever use. I don't even mess with these ones in between because these do everything. So the walk tool, this one works completely different than all the other ones. Basically, you click on you left click on your mouse and then you drag. Okay, so when you do that, you can see basically it's kind of walking. The further away from center of screen I go, the faster it's going to walk. I can turn, so think of it like the center of your screen is kind of like a crosshair. So if I want to look left, then I can do that. Okay. So now the only difference here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom down here so that I am on the floor. I'm basically floor level. All right. Well, I guess I'm not really floor level, but you get the idea. Okay. So I can, what I can do with the, okay. So what I can do with the walk tool, again, you can see I'm walking around. Now, if I want to look up, I just use my mouse wheel to look up and down. Okay. Okay, then bear with me a second. I'm gonna save my model. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my computer's kind of lagging, so I'm trying to close everything. Got another model that for some reason is open, and I'm trying to close it. It'll close faster if I don't have my screen up. Alrighty. All right, great. Okay, so no, it's still doing it. Well, whatever. That's okay. Okay, so yeah, so there's That's our basic movement. Okay, so then the last one is the selection tool. Okay, so if we go to home, we'll see that we've got the selection tool right there, and then we've also got it over here. Basically, they put it over there just so that if you're on either side of the screen, you can select it quickly. I think that's the idea there. But if you click on something, you'll see the that's probably what it is. I'm just going to pick sets and then rooms. Then I'm just going to hide all of my rooms. See, is that better? Still not particularly. Okay, regardless. Okay, so I click on something. I can see, okay, I've just clicked on a column. I can see all kinds of information about it. I can see the items, the material, all kinds of element information. So I can see how, like, what the offset is. So how tall is it? I guess the length really, since it's a column. I can see all kinds of but all this stuff came from uh, Revit. So I can see that this is a W10 by 49 column. If it has a name or a mark number, then I can see that as well. I'm trying to find that. Where's the mark? Maybe it's in item. No. Anyway, there's all kinds of data you can find here. Okay, it all came from Revit. All right. So there's a there may be a potential that you guys are having an issue with like selecting items because the rooms might be getting in the way. So if that's the case, what I want you guys to do, I want you to click on the sets tab right here and then just pick rooms. Okay. And then come up here to the home tab and then hit hide. So you want to make sure that hide is selected for the rooms. There also may be a potential that you guys see the roofs. If that's the case, same thing with that. Let's hide the roofs. Okay, once we've got that done, let's save it. All right. So next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna mess around with viewpoints. We're gonna do some markups. We're going to do some measurements. Okay, we're also gonna create a couple of sections. So let's start with the hardest thing first. Let's start with sections. So let's click on our viewpoint tab up here. And actually, let's do one more thing. So let's go over here. So we're in viewpoint. Let's go over here to the mode, and let's just make it shaded. Then again, let's save this, and then let's right click over here, hit save viewpoint. Let's call this plan view, and then we'll delete the original one. That's a little better. Okay, so I like having the shaded mode on just because we don't need to be fancy. Shaded's going to allow things to render faster when we're just walking around the model, so you can still see the color of the object, but maybe you don't see the shimmer or the shine or whatever of, like, let's say like a stainless steel object or something. It may not show that, but it still is going to show like a basic shadow. So I like this one the best just because it's fat. You can deal with it the fastest. Okay, so that's what I suggest, using the shaded mode. Alrighty. So you can see right here, we're in the viewpoints tab. You can just create a viewpoint right here by hitting save viewpoint, or you can right click over here in the Save Viewpoints window and hit Save Viewpoint. You can also create a folder, so let's do that. Let's call this coordination. So we'll have that ready for later. Okay. So at any time I can, go back to, any view that I've got saved. Right now I've only got one, of course, but let's click on our plan view, and then let's hit the enable sectioning button up here. All right, so we've got our enable sectioning button selected. Once it's selected, you can see that it's blue right here. And when that happens, it automatically takes you to the sectioning tools. Okay, so there are 3 ways to create a section. Okay, so we'll go over all 3 of them. You can do it using planes, one using a box, and then another one by fitting selection. Okay, so let's start with the planes view first. Okay, so we'll start right here. We'll say, okay, our current plane, we've got that turned on, so we can see that the light's on, and I can pick what alignment I want. So I want this to be the front alignment. All right. So let's start with front. And so I'm going to say, okay, I want to move this plane. So the plane is actually right here. You can see where this gizmo is right here. The plane is actually right here. For me, it worked perfectly pretty much because basically what I want to do is I want to section out the north part of the building. Okay, so all that I really want to do here, I want to have just a little bit of the south, just so that I know what is going into the other side and how it's basically interacting. So I just want to have just a little bit past this orange wall right here. Okay, so that's how I like the section. If that doesn't make sense to you, if you want to have it tight, then make it tight. Okay, it's fine with me. But I like having just a little bit more because I like to see just the bigger picture, what's going on right after we cross that wall. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could say, okay, I don't need to have any of this right here, so I'm going to actually go and I'm going to say, okay, so it's right. So I'm going to turn on a second plane, and I'm going to pick that one as the right, and I'm going to say, okay, there we go. I don't need anything over here. I just need this. Okay. So did everybody follow me there? So the first plane is my front view, or is the front plane. So it's right here. So if we were looking at this right here, or I guess our view cube, this is the front, right? So this is the tab that you can use. You could also scale or rotate this. I don't ever recommend using rotate, because rotate is just going to, I mean, there's limited instances where you might want to use it, but I'd rather just have everything at 90 degrees. Okay, so we've got our section how we want it. Let's maybe make it a little bit bigger so we've got everything in view. We can see it pretty clearly. Okay, so once we've got that, we can either hit the Save Viewpoint button here, or we can right click and then hit Save Viewpoint. It's up to you. I'm just going to hit the button. And we'll call this North Bar Area. Okay. So now you can see we can toggle between the two. Okay, so now let's click. I guess are we good there? Is anybody lost? Okay. If you are lost, no big deal. We're going to do it again, but we're going to do this one more time. So now let's say, okay, we've got our bar area. Now what we're going to do is we want to create a section just of the brewery area. Okay. So let's just click on our plan view, because that's our home, I guess, button. We'll hit enable sectioning again. This time, instead of planes right here, we're going to pick box. Okay, so when box shows up, you can see actually a box shows up. So I can move this wherever I want just by clicking on the gizmo. So I'll zoom in some so that you guys can see it a little bit better. But everybody see, and I'll actually kind of go around. Okay, so you see the gizmo right there. Of course, it's not exactly how I wanted it, but see that's it right there. That's the gizmo. That's what Autodesk calls it. That's not what I call it, or I would have picked, I guess. Gizmo just kind of sounds creepy. Okay, so if I wanted to move down or if I wanted to move my my box city, then I could just click on one of the arrows. You can see when I click it, it goes from whatever color it is to yellow, or when I drag over it, I guess I should say. So once I hold down, then I can just move my I can just move it down. Okay, so now let's say, okay, that's great. I've got it where I want it, but I want this box to be bigger. We can hit the scale button right here. So we had move picked, and if you couldn't move anything or do anything, you need to select one of these. The way that you know that it's selected is if it's blue. Okay, so again, so we've moved it to where we want it to go. Now I want to scale it. So same thing. Once I roll over it, it turns yellow. I click and I drag, and it's going to create a section for me. So or it's going to enlarge based off on which way I go. It's going to enlarge or shrink the thing. Okay, so I'll hit move a little bit. So I've just got it down there. Okay, so again, I can see what's going on to the north, what's connecting to it, but I don't see everything. All right, maybe I need to move this just a little bit so that I can see, make sure that I've got this mechanical pad right here. Alrighty, so we've got that. So again, I could save a viewpoint, and I'll just do that. We'll just call this South Brewery area. Okay, again, if I wanted to, I could drag this up. Just click on the little icon, this little icon right here, and then drag it. Okay, so now I've got 3 views and a folder. Okay. Okay, so here's the third way to section something. So let's click on this right here. So let's hit enable sectioning. I'll hit box. And okay, so all I want to do here, I just want to basically I want to create a box of this basically all that I want to do is create a box of this shaft right here. So I'm just going to pick a top object. I'm going to pick and I'm going to pick north, south, east, and westernmost objects. Okay, so I've got those objects all selected. So you can see I selected this beam right here. I selected the top beam right here, and then I selected these 2 walls. So I didn't select this wall, the north wall, or this east wall because it's bigger. I just wanted it to be very succinct. So I want it to basically just create a section just of this area, right? So I've got my object selected, and I'm just going to hit the fit selection button. Okay, so basically it just created that section for me. So I'm going to scale this ever so slightly so again I can see my surroundings just a little bit. There you go. So now again I'll just hit save viewpoint. I can do it right there, or this time I'm going to put it down here. I'm just going to right click in my saved viewpoints window, right click, hit save viewpoint, and we'll call this mech shaft section. Okay, again I can just drag it up. So now we've got 4 views. Everybody have that?
Yes.
Yes. Your mic is muted, Michael.
Yeah, I sorry, I was blowing my nose. The pollen's really gotten me this week. Sorry, guys. Okay, so there we go. So So there's our sections. Okay. So anybody have any questions about sectioning?
Can you repeat the three sections? We said plane, fit selection. What was the second one?
Box.
Oh,
So and you can do that
thank you.
just by picking plane and box right here. You can pick how to do it. So you know how to do all three of them now. I don't care which one you use when you use it. Pick the one that makes the most sense to you. Um, I prefer the box section, but maybe you guys will prefer using the fit selection sectioning tool. Um, to me, the box gives me the most control, and I can do it the fastest. One thing I didn't do, I should have probably, let's say you're in a building that's a high rise, right? Well, you can also section, uh, you know, vertically. So let's say you wanted to keep this section, but you wanted to see maybe the shaft on the next floor. You could just move it up, or if you wanted to see the one from the previous, you could move it down. Or if you wanted to see, heck, all three, you could just scale and then roll over the little blue arrow and then do that. Okay? So this is great for if you're, if you're doing if you're working on like a high rise or project with multiple floors. Okay? And so let's kind of talk about that. Okay? So when I exported from Revit, one, this is a one-story building, yes, but two, I exported this very intentionally. I exported it by what I like to say via the floor plan. And so what I mean by that is, I like to work. I like my models to be sized based off of what the floor plans look like. Not the enlarged floor plans, just the floor plans. Okay, that's how typically I've found my designers and my modelers and my subcontractors and my consultants. They work. They work off of a floor plan. Okay, they build their model off of a floor plan. They look at it and then they put that data into their model. Okay, so uh, that's the way that I want to do my work as well. Because they open one file and they can modify stuff. That's what I want. So everybody's working off the same file. It's apples to apples. Okay. So what you're going to see, I always create my views so that I am looking straight down. I'm looking like the view is north is at the top and I'm looking straight down. And that's because that's so that everybody can see um, exactly what everybody knows where they are. There's no confusion about, okay, where are we in the model? What column grid line is this? They can look at it. They know that they're looking north. It creates consistency for the project. Okay. Um, is that the way that you guys work, or what are your thoughts on that? Okay. So there's two. I guess basically there's two schools of thought there. Okay. So you know sometimes people want to have everything in their model. I can understand that. I can respect that. But coming from the BIM coordinator's point of view, it's a waste to have any more information. I'll be honest with you. People can't. It's tough to consume more information than just one floor plan. You're going to have to go back and forth between one floor plan and another whenever you're modeling, whenever you're checking things. It's a huge pain in the butt. It's going to slow things down. It's going to make your model file size humongous, which is going to make it. You're going to take longer to walk around your model. It's going to take longer for things to parse. You're going to lose a second here, a second there, and then all of a sudden it's 7 o'clock at night, and you're halfway done because you wasted a second here and there over the course, like 1,000 times over the course of a day. So I like doing it because I like just having, just again, like I said at the beginning, no more, no less information than I need, exactly what I need. And so that's why I like building off the floor plan. There's some times where you can't do that, like maybe you're working on like a auditorium or something that has an atrium or something in the middle, and you can't do that. That's fine. That's why you create these sections, so that if you have clashes at those, you click on that view first, and then you create you create the view from that section. Okay. But typically, what you want to do is you want to build it just like this, so that you can when we're working in Clash, you can have a view looking down, um, and facing north. Okay. That's just going to make it easy for everybody. And if you, for the most part, create all of your views that way, then it's just going to create consistency in your model. Alrighty. So let's save our model. Let's save our NWF file. And let's do some quick properties first. So let's go to Home. And once we do this, this should take us to 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock your all's time. We'll take a 10-minute break at 11 or whenever we get these quick properties done. Okay. So I want you guys to make sure that you've got quick properties turned on right here. And then I want you to hit this button, the selection inspector. Okay. So nothing's inside of here, but okay, did everybody see that? So again, go to the Home tab. Then make sure that quick properties are selected. Make sure that's blue. And then pick this little button right here in the select and search menu on the Home tab. It's this little button in the corner. It's called the selection inspector. Okay, so once that's open, click the quick property definitions button. Okay, so when that shows up, you should see something like this. Yours may be completely empty. That's fine. So I'll show you how to create one of these. So basically, I'm going to show you guys how to create one, and then then I'll take a break, but I'll keep this open. And basically, what I want you guys to do is create all of these, and then create all of these, and then once you've got that, you can go to break. So we'll come back at 11:10. Okay, so it's real easy to create. Basically, what I've got here, we've got the invert elevation. So this is telling us what the bottom or what the elevation of the object is that we're looking at. Here, it's the offset. Same, it's a similar thing. We've also got the system classification. So what is this? Is this like a supply duct? Is it a return duct? Is this a hot water supply? Is this hot water return? Okay. We can also see the size of it. So is it a 3-inch pipe? Is it a 26-inch duct? Is it a 14 by 48 rectangular duct? Okay. We can also see the name of the object. So that would come in handy if you needed to know what VAV we were looking at. And then again, the offset. Okay. So why do I have offset and invert element in there 3 times? Great question. So let's hit add element. Okay, so when it does that, you'll see right here at the top, it added one. Okay, so let's go to element. I'll just show you right here. Okay, so if we go to the categories element, then we go to go down here to offset. You'll see 1, 2, 3 offsets. So I guess for some reason, different parameters have a different property for offset. So I want to make sure that all of them are accounted for. So that's why I picked all 3. Okay. So really if I want to find the offset, then I just do that. Okay. If I wanted to, for some reason, let's see, the name, I could say element name. That if I wanted to know the let's see, elevation at the bottom, I could do that. Let's actually do that. So again, to create one, you hit the plus button right here, the green plus, and then to change the category, you just drag and drop. So I want you guys to click to pick all of these. Okay, so this will tell us the elevation, pardon me, at the bottom. This is basically the same thing, the invert elevation. The offset, offset, offset. So I want to see really quickly what is the bottom elevation for this. So any way that I can find that, I want to find it. Okay. Then I've got my system classification, so I know what I'm looking at. Then the size of the element and the name too, if possible. So you guys go ahead and create those. Once you've got it done, hit OK. I'm going to have this open and up. I'm going to go get me a glass of water, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. So if you guys have questions between now and when I get back, just leave a comment and I'll answer them when I get back or when we all get back. And yeah, that's it. So we'll take a break until 11:10 or 10:10 your all's time. Okay, I'm back, guys. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay muted until then. All right, guys, is everybody back?
Yes,
Yes, I'm
I'm
here.
back.
Okay, so did everybody get a chance to get all of these option editors in? I guess all these quick display properties.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So you might be asking yourself, why did we do that? What the heck are those? Well, I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm just going to roll over this guy right here. Okay, so when I roll over it, look at all that fun information that shows up. Okay, so we've got the classification, the offset, the name. Same thing if I roll over this light. Okay, so see, even still, like I didn't get an offset for everything, but for this duct, it's there. See, I can see this is a 70 by 24 duct. It's 13 feet off the ground. You can see this is a 12 by 4 cable tray. It's 11 feet off the ground. I can see this is a 10. This is a diffuser that's 12 by 12 and it's 10 feet off the ground. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the piping as well. Okay, it's 13, 10 and a half off the ground. It is 3-inch round and it's offset 4 feet off of the nearest level. Okay, so basically, this is going to help you identify exactly what you're looking at. Um, so let's actually go in and add one more here. Okay, let's go back to quick property definitions. Again, go to the home tab, then this little button right here, then pick the quick property definitions. Let's add one more. We'll call this one, I think this one would be element, and then we'll go with mark. Okay, so we'll pick mark. So I hit OK. So let's see, it should. So there we go. So the element mark, you can see for important things like the like the VAVs, they're named intelligently. So that shows up now. See it? See that should show up the first thing. If I roll over it, another one. See AT-bar-03. So there we go. So for the remainder of your time using Navisworks, all that stuff's going to show up. So if there's one that you're like, man, this doesn't make any sense, I don't need this one, you can get rid of it and you can add something that does make sense for you. Okay? So what I've gone and done is I've created a whole bunch of search sets for you that they're going to find everything. If it came from Revit, it's going to find that this data in there. And then because I've also got an appearance profiler for you that you can color code your model based off of your search sets. Okay. Okay. So now let's do some markups. Okay, so we'll do markups for about the next 15-20 minutes, and then we'll spend the rest of the time doing Clash. Okay. Alrighty. So we've worked in the Home tab. We've worked a little bit in the the Viewpoint tab, and then in the Sectioning tab. Before we do the Review tab, let's look at all the other things that we're not going to really go over. I'll kind of give you a brief explanation of everything. Okay, so let's start here in the Animation tab. Okay, so the Animation tab, basically you can one of the main tools in Navisworks is you can animate things. So you can like do an animation walkthrough where you walk through the building at and you can basically just record your motions. So if, like, for instance, if you wanted to, you know, I'll just give you an example. If you just wanted to walk straight through the building, you could do so. So, for instance, so all I would have to do is just hit record here, walk through the building, maybe do a loop-de-loop. and then basically it's going to record that once I hit stop, and then I can do that. Okay, so I can create a walkthrough if I wanted to. I could also do something called create a script, and I could basically what I could do is I could create an animation that said, okay, whenever I get so close to this door, the door is going to open. So it'll like actually hinge and it'll open up, right? So I can do that as well. I can do a combination of both. So once I turn the scripter on, then I can it'll automatically do things. Okay? So that's animation. Okay? So there's also timeliner. So if I wanted to show like if I wanted to visualize my schedule, I could drop in my P6 or my Microsoft Project file, and then I could assign model objects my uh, to my schedule. Okay, so I could create a visualized schedule for someone, and I could link that to an animation as well if I wanted to. Okay, so I could also do quantification. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could get the quantify how many VAVs, what the length of pipe that I have is, whatever I need to do. I could use Navisworks as a quantification and to help with estimating and precon. Okay. I can also render. So if I go to the renders tab, then I can render like beautiful pictures that are almost photorealistic. I can pick how, I can do all kinds of things. I can do lighting. I can um, choose all kinds of things. Okay, I can choose surfaces and what things look like, all kinds of stuff. We can print and publish things out. So we can print like views. We can publish an NWD or a scene, so a DWF or a FBX or even something for Google Earth. We can export out animations, and then we can export out searches, search sets, viewpoints, reports, all kinds of stuff. Okay. The rest of these you guys probably don't have. The only one that I'll mention is Autodesk point layout. So if you guys use total stations, which do you guys use total stations? Okay. Well, if you do use total stations, then what you can do is you can you can create points in your model in Navisworks. You could also create them if you have point layout in AutoCAD or in Revit, and it'll basically automatically place points on whatever you want to place points on in the model. You can pick how far, like if you're doing a wall, you can choose how far they're spaced apart. And so basically you can um, verify points in the field, or you can create, you can use it for layout. Okay. So that's something that my boss Mark Petrucci, he's like kind of our guru in house at Applied Software that does all that stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, if you're learning more about that, that's definitely something that we can help you with. Let's see, BIM 360. Okay, so um, so a couple of years back, well, okay, so as I was saying at the beginning of the class, BIM 360 Glue is kind of like a lightweight version of Navisworks. What it can do is it's really good at creating viewpoints and markups and running simple Clash. And you can review it in the web, on the cloud, and everybody has access to it at the most recent model at any time. So one of the kind of cool things about it too is if you like the way that Navisworks works, like if you like the workflow in Navisworks, then you can still utilize. You can still utilize it. Basically, you just push everybody pushes their models up to the cloud and to glue, and then you can call it down from here, and you can still run coordination here. Okay. So anyway, that's the rest of the tabs. I won't go over the other ones because they probably won't apply to you. But let's mess with some measuring. Okay, and so everybody click on the review tab. And the first button right there is just measure. So let's click the little down arrow. Let's see our options. So we can do point to point. We can do point to multiple points. We can create a line. We can do a cumulative points so we can see non-consecutive distances. We can measure an angle, and we can measure area. So let's just do point to point. Okay. So let's just see here. So I'm just going to click from. I'll click. Let me zoom in here. I'll click from one corner of this. So when I roll over this, if you notice right here, see you can see that I'm picking a surface here. It shows me exactly which surface I'm on. If I click an actual corner, you can see this little asterisk kind of comes up, right? So I click on that. Then I can click on. Let's just say I want to do this one right here. Screw it. Let's just do this one just for simplicity's sake. Okay, there we go. So I want to see the distance between this VAV and that VAV. So this one and that one. Well, I can just click on a corner. That's what I did. So what you'll see here is it shows, okay, this is, I'm inside of the wall, I guess. So I can see right here, okay, it shows me that this point to this exact point is 12 foot 6 3/4 inches. Okay, if I look at the X, Y, and Z, I can see, okay, the X differential, which is this red line, is 11 foot 9 1/4. The Y differential is 4 foot 4, which is this green. And then you can kind of barely see it, that blue right there is the Z differential. So they're off by 7 and 7/8 inches, like vertically. And then the Y, they're about 4 feet away from each other. But then so essentially the shortest XY distance, if we look up from above, let's actually, I'll go ahead and do that, is 11 foot 9 1/4, right? So now I guess this kind of shows it better. Does that make sense? Does everybody see that? So the actual distance between those two things is that. Go ahead. I heard someone speak up.
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay. So that's what I like about this. Like it shows you it shows you the distance between the 2 points that you selected, and it also shows you the X, Y, and Z differential as well. Okay. So now let's pick basically all of these work basically the same as that. So let's do area, okay? And before we do area, I want to do a public service announcement here, okay? There's going to be times when your model doesn't line up perfectly like this one did, okay? It's going to happen almost in every project that you do at least one time, okay? One time per project, not just one time in your life. One time per project, there's going to be at least one file that does not line up exactly how you expect it to or need it to. Okay. So when that happens, there are two options. Okay. You can. The best option is one, ask the subcontractor or the consultant or whoever to export their file using shared coordinates. When they do that, the data should come back, back to you, and it should line up. But there will still be times where that's not possible or where that doesn't happen. So what you can do is you can use the angle measurement to find a like point, and then move those objects back. So if that happens, if it's like, okay, you've asked them to send shared coordinates and it still didn't work, I would ask that you please give me a ring, shoot me an email, whatever, and I'll walk you through the process. Okay? I don't want to show it here because it's kind of painful, and uh, we're just kind of doing basic stuff here. So but if and when that issue pops up where models don't align, please give me a call. I'm happy to help you out. Okay. Um, so now let's see. So that's my little spiel about angles. So like moving things around involves using the angle. I'll show you how to. I can show you how to do it. But anyway, let's do area. So let's click on our bar area, and let's click the measurement tool, and let's just get an area. Okay. It doesn't matter to me how you do it. It's not important that we're accurate in this instance. It's just important that we get the idea of how it works. So I'm going to pick the interior corner. You guys could pick the exterior. You guys could just be rough with it. I really don't care. But it might make sense for you to pick the corners, because then you can see, like, you can kind of get used to how you pick vertices. So you can see right there, boom, boom. Okay, and then boom. Okay, so there we go. I've got it. Okay, so what I can do here is I can hit save viewpoint, and I can say, we'll just say bar total area. All right, so right there it's saying it's 5,700 square feet. Seems big, but whatever. Okay. So if I want to, what I could do is I could, so I created that viewpoint. What I can do is I can hit convert to redline, and then that's going to save it to the viewpoint. Okay. When I'm ready to clear the measurement, I just hit clear. So again, I'll do another measurement. So I'll just, okay, and then if that one was wrong, then I can just hit clear, and then it'll go away. All right. So for some, I don't particularly like that it's in red. I can't really read it because there's pink right there. So I'm just going to change my color from here on out to teal. I'll circle it right there. I can use the drawing tools to circle it. If I want to, I could come in here and I could say, what was it actually? 5765 SF. I'll just call it that. I'll round up. Okay. If I wanted to, I could hit this drawing tool again, and I could create an arrow. Okay. I could just, I don't recommend using the cloud. I'll show you how it works. I don't really much care for it. To me, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I can erase things as well. I can change the thickness of my line if I want to. I can even freehand stuff. There's my signature. Now you can forge checks. All right. So because I clicked on this viewpoint, it saved all those markups that I did. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's click on our South Brewery area, and let's do let's do just a couple of measurements. Doesn't matter to me what you do. You can pick any of these tools. You can pick an angle. Let's just do angle. Sure, why the heck not? So Let's see, what is here we go. Okay, so there we go. So I've that went a little bit further. There we go. So I did that. Okay, so again, I could save the. I'll save the viewpoint, and I'll say. Okay, and then I could, if I wanted to save this to this viewpoint, I click on that viewpoint that I want to save it to, and then I hit convert to redline, and then you can see it shows up there. Okay. Again, I could just draw over the top of it. I could write it. I could write in something. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so now let's look at one last thing here. One way to measure. Okay, so you might be saying to yourself, okay, that's great, but I need to know the distance that things are, like how far things are apart from each other, the shortest possible distance, so that I know how much I can move something one way or the other. Okay, well, I've got just the solution for you. Let's click. So here's what we're going to do. Let's just click on any two things. Okay, so I'm going to click on one thing. So I just clicked on this large duct. Now I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to click again. Okay, so I picked this other duct over here. I could have just as easily picked this object and this object. I could have picked this light and the floor. I could have picked this sprinkler line and this cable tray. Okay, so when I do that, when I select those two objects, or these two, so again, select by just clicking on it. That'll change the color of it. Then hold Control, click, and then click. Okay, so you've got two items selected. So when that happens, you see the shortest distance button pops up. Okay, so it's going to show you the shortest distance between those two objects. Okay, so again, I could I could convert that to red line. I could save a viewpoint if I wanted to. Actually, no, I want it to be on that one, so I'll just convert to red line. Okay. So same thing, if you need to know what the elevation of that light is, you just select those two things. You can see, okay, it's 9 foot 12. Ha, it's 10 feet. That's funny that it said 9 foot 12. That's kind of dumb, isn't it? Okay. 9 foot 11 here for this duct. This beam is 14, 11 and 3/4. It's a weird elevation. Okay. So this pipe, got it selected. Hit Control, click, select the floor. 10 foot 3 3/4. This pipe, the floor, 13, 10 1/4. So if I roll over it, let's see if the quick property tells me the same. 13, 10 1/2. So I'm pretty close. So I guess I don't know why it's telling me that. Maybe I picked a grump. I guess it's picking the. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure exactly why it's off by 1/4 of an inch.
question. So typically they should add up. I mean, they should match up.
Yeah, they should.
Okay. And if they don't, we have to figure out the reason why. It could be the coordinates or something else, or
Um, it could be like, there may be. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why it would do that. 13, 10 and a half. Let's see it again. I mean, it could be that it's measuring like the coupling. It's possible that it's doing that. so that could be the difference. But um, typically they should match up. Let's see right here. So we've got 10 feet, and then this one's 10. That's the only instance I've ever seen where it has not been basically the same. There will be some cases where, so that's 10, 12. So I guess maybe one is going from the center of the object and one is going from, I don't know. That's weird.
okay.
But the one that I would really trust is the measurement tool. That one's not going to be off. It's possible that that our that like our quick property may be off slightly. Um, uh, so I'm not I don't know exactly how it measures it, but I do know for a fact that the measurement tool in Navisworks measures from bottom of object to top of other object when it's measuring shortest distances, or side to side, nearest to nearest. Okay, so the absolute bottom of that pipe is at 13, 1.5 or 10 and a half, whatever it was, 10 and a quarter. So basically, I guess you just use the quick properties so that you could get a quick feel as to where, how, what the elevation of the object is. So maybe you don't have view of the floor, so you have a basic idea. Okay, it's at 1310. Okay, so that's something that you can read out to your team, during your meetings or whatever.
Okay. Could it ever be a case to where it's off because there was a clash in one area, so you changed it, but essentially that would reflect in the model and should update in the quick properties, right? In
Right. Yes. I don't have the only explanation that I could have is that it's measuring it from a different spot. Like
okay,
maybe right here, like it's not measuring it from the bottom. Maybe it's measuring from the bottom of like, you know, uh, the rung instead of the very bottom of the cable tray. Maybe for this it's measuring the coupling. So I don't really have an
okay.
explanation
So the
for
best
that.
bet is just pretty much to go based off the measurement tool for your
Yes, yes.
the accuracy. Okay.
Uh-huh. Um. Okay. So we've got that down. So there was our 20-minute markup viewpoint measuring tutorial. So let's get into what we all came for. Let's well, actually, one more thing before we do that. Okay, so there let's say sometimes there's going to be issues where maybe a file does not come in at the right elevation. That's going to be especially the case if you're doing what I'm suggesting and you're working off of the floor plan. Because if you're working off of the floor plan and people don't use shared parameters, then their stuff's going to come in basically at 0 plus whatever their offset is. So, for instance, these lights, they would be coming in at 18.9. Okay, but let's say these were on level 2, they would still come in at 18'9" because they were going off of the 0 for that floor. Does that make sense? So if that's the case, if you're doing like a multi-story building and things come in way below, it's very simple to raise things up. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so uh, click it in your selection tree. Just um, select like one of your files. It doesn't matter to me which one, just because I'm showing you how to do it. So click on one of them. You can see it's selected because for me it's blue. It may be a different color for you. But once you do that, right click and then hit units and transform. Okay. So now what you can do is this is x coordinate, y coordinate, z coordinate. So if I need this to raise up, let's say the next floor is 14 foot 6 inches up. Okay. I just hit OK, and you're going to notice that that file raised 14 foot 6 inches up. Okay. So again, I'll show you that again. You select the file, right click on it, come down here to units and transform, and then change it. Okay. So if I wanted it to go to 7, you can see, okay, there we go. Okay, so this is another instance where that'll happen. So I'll give you an example why you'd use this. Like, uh, the sprinkler is going to use he very rarely uses Revit or AutoCAD right out of the box because it doesn't make the calculations and things that he's looking for. Or maybe it doesn't do them the way that he wants them to, or the way that he's accustomed to doing them. So he's going to have something like a sprinkle CAD or some kind of like CAD type program or something that'll export a file out to CAD that'll still do his calculations and all that jazz. So when he exports it out, most likely he's just going to be going off of like whatever that floor was. Okay. Or he may be going off of some other coordinate. Who knows? But if you just need to move the x, y, or z coordinate, you can just pick his file, hit units and transform, and then change the coordinates. Sometimes these will even like have different values than 0. You want to have everything zeroed out typically, but you could also rotate stuff. I would never ever mess with rotation. It's just a pain in the butt unless you have to. Again, that's one of those instances where again, call me if that comes up. Okay, you could scale it. This would be an instance where maybe someone gave you a file in like millimeters or in meters or something. For some reason they built it in imperial or not imperial in metric. Then you could scale it so that it was whatever that size was there as well. Okay. One other thing. Let's see. Let's say okay, so I've got my supply diffusers here. So let's say I wanted to change the color of something. Okay. So here's what I did. I just clicked on one of those objects, and then you can see in my selection tree, it came up over here, and so I can see okay, air terminals, supply diffuser. So I'm just going to pick all of my air terminals right here in my mechanical file that showed up. So it just clicked on, you can see right here, it just picked that one, but I'm going to pick all of them. Okay, so you can see all of them are selected right now. So if I want to change the color of my air terminals, I just right click. So I've got them selected, right? Then I right click and I go to override item. So I could change the transform, so I could change the size, the shape, location. I could change the transparency, or I could change the color. So I'll just change this to purple since it's also a mechanical equipment. So then boom, purple. Okay. So again, I'll show you how to do that again. So select one of them, then you can see, okay, here's the group of them. They're all air terminals. So I've got all the air terminals selected. I right click, go to override item down here, override color, and we'll change it to a nice light blue this time. Okay, I don't really like that. Again, I'm just going to change it back. Pick one, then I can pick the group or the item type. Right click, hit override color. I'll change it back to purple. Okay. Got it? Good. Okay, so next, now for real, we're going to jump into clash detection for the last 45 minutes. Okay? So, um, let's break it up so that it's about half. Okay, so we've got that. Let's pin the clash detective up to onto our screen here, and then let's move this over so that we've got basically we've just got enough so we can see the name. So in here, let's add let's add a new folder. So let's call this major clashes first. Then we'll go add another folder. We'll call this mech. Another folder. We'll call this electrical. Another folder. We'll call this plumbing. Another folder. We'll call this FP for fire protection. Call one arc for architecture, and then we'll have another folder for steel. Okay, so I've got basically all of my all of my trades taken care of. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, architecture, steel. If you guys have a different one, maybe you're working on a hospital, maybe there's med gas, maybe there's pneumatic tube, of course you'd want to create another folder. Okie doke. So, there are two basic ways to do to run Clash in Navisworks. Okay. There is the viewpoint method, which basically everything you run your clashes, you find your clashes, and then you create viewpoints and save them in like a folder structure like this over here. Okay. You would use that workflow if you were if not everybody on your team had Navisworks Manage. Okay. That was the way that I actually did Clash coordination when I was a BIM coordinator for Walsh Construction, because when I was doing it, there actually was not. You could not actually assign things inside of the Clash test like we're gonna do right now. Okay, so the reason that I did that is because no one had Navisworks Manage at the time. It was just me. So there also wasn't glue around either. So I mean, basically, that was the only way, or that to me that was the best way to manage and like all of my clashes. Again, you would use this method because someone on your team does not have Navisworks Manage, and you're going to find too that this is probably still going to be the most likely scenario in during that you're going to use, and the reason for that is because the sprinkler guy is not going to buy Navisworks Manage, or the pneumatic tube guy doesn't have it, or fill in the blank does not have it, right? There's going to be people all just companies that don't have it, uh, and so if they don't have it, then you can't assigning things inside of the Clash Detective and stuff that provides no value for them because they can't access it. So if so, the most widely used workflow is going through viewpoints. Okay. There's also the in clash method for that's what I call it, at least. I'm sure that there's a better name for it, but that's what I call it. The clash detective method, I guess, for doing it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you first. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do, let's create let's say we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just disregard well, no, let's not disregard architecture. So 8. So let's just create I guess 10 tests. Okay, create 11. That's fine. We'll create 11. So let's start with A versus steel. Okay. Now let's go A versus cable tray, or no, let's go. Sorry, A versus electrical. Now let's go A versus FP. Then let's go A versus mechanical. Then A versus plumbing. Okay, so we've got steel. Then I went alphabetical. Electrical, sprinkler, mechanical, plumbing. All right. Now let's for these next ones, let's go ahead and create. Let's just go steel versus electrical. Steel dash FP. Steel dash mech. Steel dash plumbing. Okay, let's create a couple more tests. Let's just create 20. Okay. We may not get through all of these. That's not a big deal. As long as we go through a couple, we're in good shape. So next, what we're going to do, let's start with electrical. So E versus FP. E versus mechanical. E versus plumbing. Okay, so we've already got, so then let's do FP versus mechanical. FP versus plumbing. Then let's do mechanical versus plumbing, because that's the only one that we haven't done. We can delete the rest. So right click, delete, 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 delete. So I'll I'll move this down so that we can see all of them. Okay, there we go. I'll move it up slightly. Okay, so there we go. So we should have basically all of these up there. Alrighty? Is everybody here with me? Does everybody have all those created?
Yes.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. So basically what we've gone and done is we've created a clash report for every single one file versus another. Okay. I didn't create
Can
any
you scroll
redundant
down
ones.
just real quick
Pardon?
after FP versus P?
Yeah.
I
Then
can't
it's
see.
just
Okay.
mechanical versus plumbing.
Okay. I had it
So
backwards.
typically I would do sprinkler last because it's the least important, but I figured I'd just go alphabetically this time, with the exception of steel. I went typically I create them in the hierarchy, in like a hierarchy of design. So would go probably like architecture, steel, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire protection. I guess that's not really your hierarchy of design, but you get what I'm saying, I think. Okay, so let's start assigning what's going to clash against what here. Okay, so we'll start up here with architectural versus steel. Okay, so this one's really, it's going to create a whole bunch of false positives, so that's fine. So we'll just say, okay, so on the left side, I want to pick my architectural model. Okay, so on this side, I want to pick my steel model. Okay, so once I've got that, I'll go to my architecture versus electrical. So I'll say, okay, this side I want architecture. That side I want to do cable tray and lights. Okay. I'll go to sprinkler. So again, architecture, sprinkler. Architectural versus mechanical. So again, I'll just pick architectural on the left, and then I'll pick mechanical on the right. Finally, architectural versus plumbing. Just pick architectural, and then I'll pick storm and hot water, cold water. Okay, so let's look at this stuff, right? So down here, I've got these options. They're the same on both sides. So I could say, okay, what do I want to clash? I want to clash surfaces. I want to clash points. So if there's like a point cloud or if there's any like layout points in there, I want to clash those. If for some reason we don't have line work in there, um, or there's just line work in there for some reason, and we need to clash it, we can do that as well. Since I know all my model has surfaces, I'm just gonna keep surfaces. I don't need lines because the surfaces will do it. The lines will just give me additional clashes. Okay. If I wanted to, I could say let's self intersect test. I don't want to do that, but you could if you wanted to. Okay, next you could say use current selection or select in scene. So you could select the specific items that you want to clash in scene if you wanted to. So if I just wanted to clash, let's see, maybe instead of steel, um, maybe if I picked structural columns and foundations. Actually, I don't need foundations. If I just wanted to do structural framing, then I could do that. And then basically what I could do is I could say select in scene, and then it would do it. Okay, make sense? So that's basically our buttons right here. So that's these buttons customize how we run our clash. Okay. Next, we've got our settings. Okay, so we're down here now. So what type of clash do we want to run? We can do hard conservative, clearance, or duplicates. Okay, so duplicates, obviously, it's going to just look for duplicate information. So if you have the slab in your architectural and you have the slab in your um, uh, structural, then it'll find just the items where the same data runs over top of each other. Okay. Clearance. So if you run clearance, then it's going to check to see, make sure that there's, the clearances are I guess being met. So like if you just want to check to see that your VAVs have, 36 inches of clearance around them, you could just set the tolerance right here to 36 inches and then it'll test it. Or I guess negative 36 inches. Okay, next is hard conservative. Basically, this is going to kind of cut down on your duplicates. I'm just going to stick with hard. Okay, so tolerance. Uh, so let's say what you could do here. Why would you use tolerance? So um, let's say you perfect example. So steel. Typically, it's going to get fireproofing spray on it, right? Or some of it is. Well, you need to account for that in your model, but you can't. Uh, they're not going to model it, so you've got to account for it somehow. So if you add tolerance to it, then that's how. Okay. So if there's like a 2 inch, if 2 inches of SFRM are supposed to go around the steel, then you put a tolerance of 2 inches. Then it'll account for it. Same thing with if insulation on your duct or on your piping is not in the model, you can account for it there with tolerance as well. Link, let's not worry about that. Um, I've never used that before. Okay, so um, let's look up here too. Okay, so let's just look at our clash detective. Okay, so up here we've got the name of our clash test. We've got the status. It's brand new. We've never run it before. So right here it's going to show us our total clashes. Then here it's going to show us how many are new, how many are active, and how many are resolved. Okay. I skipped over these two because these are two reviewed and approved. These are statuses that you as the clash detective, I guess, you can change those. So let's say there are false positives. You can go ahead and mark things as review or approved, and basically, get them out of your system. You don't need them anymore. Okay. We'll go over that later, but basically, this right here is kind of like a decent clash report. It tells you, okay, how many clashes are there, how many are new, how many have been there for a while, and then how many did we get resolved. Okay, so the goal is for everything to move from here over to the right. So again, we hit add test. I could if I wanted to, if I just wanted to see the world burn. I could just hit reset all, and that would just clear everything. I could hit compact all, and what that's going to do, that's going to get rid of all of my resolved clashes. So why would you want to do that? The reason that you would want to do that is because the size of your file is getting too big. Also, it's hard to it might start getting hard for you to kind of fish through all of your clashes because the resolved ones are kind of hidden in there between the actual active clashes. So you would want to hit compact all if you wanted to get rid of all your resolved clashes and you just wanted to see the new ones. Okay. Finally, there's delete all. Let's not. I would recommend not clicking on either one of these if I could um, control it, because basically that's gonna, again, like I said, that's gonna you're gonna basically you want to watch the world burn. You just want to start all over. All the work that you've done with your clashes, setting everything up, you just want it to go away. So I would not recommend doing that because you want to keep them open, because for each project, or each week you're going to want to update this. So finally, there's update all. Okay. So before I hit update all, let's just go through and finish out like assigning values to each one of these. Okay. So we'll just go with steel. So I'll say steel, and that's against electrical. So cable tray and lights. Steel versus sprinkler. Steel versus mechanical. Steel versus plumbing. Okay, so now electrical, cable tray, and lights versus sprinkler. Cable tray and lights versus mechanical. Cable tray and lights versus plumbing. Uh, Sprinkler versus mechanical. Sprinkler versus plumbing. Sprinkler or mechanical versus plumbing. Okay, so there we go. So I've I've assigned values to all of mine. Okay, so I'm actually gonna kind of go off the rails here. Okay, so let's go back up to our steel, and let's change kind of the way that we do it, because I just want to show it to you. Okay, so for steel only, let's go back up here to these. Let's go steel versus electrical. So let's, instead of standard right here, let's go to sets. Okay, and so all we want to clash here are our beams and our columns. So click beams and then columns. Okay, so again, I'll show you how to do that next one. Okay, so click on the steel versus FP, and then pick where it says selection A. Instead of standard, let's select sets. And then just pick beams and then control click columns. Okay. Again, pick your clash test. Go to selection A, pick sets, and we'll say columns and beams. Same thing. Go back down to the next one. We don't want to actually select that. Okay, that one. Okay, so we'll go sets again, and beams and columns. Alrighty. Any questions about that? Okay, so we've
No.
got. Go ahead. What was that?
No questions.
Okie doke. So we've gone through and we've created all of our clash tests. Let's hit update all. Okay. So again, let me move this down. So we're gonna see this is a pretty weak. Like we're pretty far along in the design here, and I can tell that because we've got single digit clashes. So whoever did this, either they did a heck of a job coordinating it internally, um, or we're almost done with the design process here because we've got very few clashes. The worst case is the electrical and the mechanical, right? So we're looking pretty good here. Okie doke. So let's just start from the top. Let's go from the top, okay? So we've got our architecture versus our steel. Okay, so let's take a look at our results here. Okay, so right now we can't see them. So let's just so I've picked A versus steel up here. Now I'm just going to click this down arrow or this arrow right here to hide those. Okay. So I could, if I wanted to, just kind of go through all of these and just review them one by one. But to me, the best way to review all of these is to create a group, and I'll show you guys how to do that again. Okay, so um, just hit the new group button. Okay, then we do that, and then once we do this, we just name it today's date, so that we know what date the classes were run on. Okay, so then all I do is I click the first one and then I navigate down to the last one. Typically, there's gonna be a scroll bar here, and you're gonna have to go all the way down to, like, let's say clash number 356. Just hit Shift and select them all, and then drag and drop them in. Okay. Okay, cool. So I'm going to actually go and turn off my grid now, just so that I can see better what the heck I'm looking at. Okay, so really the only clashes between steel and architectural are inside of these two chases right here. There's the sprinkler chase or the fire chase and the mechanical chase. So I can see that, right? So again, I like putting them into a group because then I can see how all of these interact. Otherwise, I'm just looking at one clash. Like that one looks like it's the exact same clash, doesn't it? Don't those look basically the same? So the reason that I put them all in a group together is because I can see how they interact with one another. That's really important because it's not just our job to find the clashes; it's our job to um, it's our job to basically make a suggestion to make everybody else's life easier with this. Okay, critical thinking is a big part of a BIM coordinator's job. Okay, so we've got those in there. So let's just kind of roll over these. So we've got the option to group selected clashes. We could remove clashes from a group. We could explode the group or get rid of the group. I can assign clashes or assign responsibility to a group, and I can add a comment. Okay. Now let's look. So let's look right here. Okay. So we've got our clashes here. We can see that they're red. So red means new. They're not named anything. That's fine. We can see, is there a viewpoint attached to it? Right here, yes, there is right now. Okay, what's the status? It says new. If I wanted to, I could change these if I wanted to. Okay, we can see what level it's on. Okay, we can see where the closest grid intersection is. Okay, we can see when they were run. Oops, right here. If I scroll over, we'll go from found. I can say who approved it, whether it is approved or not. Then the description: what type of clash is it? Who is it assigned to, and how big is the clash? Okay, that's all the things that we can see. Okay, so let's look at these up here. So here's some things that we can do. So I'll show you this one in a minute, but basically you can filter based off of what you're looking at in the model or what you've clicked on in the model. Okay, you can choose to reset the clash. Again, this is one of those I want to watch the world burn kind of things. Uh, If you want to reset it, then basically you're going to get rid of all of your information. I do not recommend hitting that unless you like accidentally added something to your clash test that you didn't mean to. Okay, compact. Basically, what that's going to do is it's going to get rid of all of your resolved ones. So I'll show you that here shortly. Okay. Then finally, if you want to rerun the test, you can do so. So let's hit save now because we've done all this. And there's one other thing that I want to show you. Okay, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. So there's the append button, and then there's the refresh button. Okay, so you append models the first time that you do it, and then after that, basically you download your models into your folder, and you just hit refresh. And so if once it refreshes, then it's going to change the geometry inside of Navisworks for you. Okay, so there's append and refresh. So once you refresh, then you can just rerun the test. Okay. Guess any questions so far? Okie doke. So now let's look at these display settings here. You guys, it may already be showing up for you, or it may not. If it's not, then just click this little arrow right here, and this stuff will show up. Okay. So I like having the highlight on because then I can see, okay, red is item 1 and green is item 2. So I can see what, I know basically what's clashing with what, right? Let's see. Right here, I can choose to hide or dim other things. I kind of use either. It depends on the the instances of what I use when. But let's just turn on dim others right now. So since we're not particularly familiar with the model and we don't have the grid lines turned on, let's just put dim other on so we know where we are in the model. Okay, let's look at transparent dimming too. Let's keep that. Let's have this box checked. Okay. So next, let's look at viewpoint. So let's just roll over this right here. So viewpoint auto update. So it says auto update will automatically choose, then it hid from me, an appropriate viewpoint or load a saved one and save any subsequent changes. Auto load will load a saved viewpoint but will not save any changes. Manual will not load or save a saved viewpoint. For more information, consult the help button. So I like having it on auto update because basically, if I zoom in, then it'll it'll create a viewpoint. If I were to mark something up, it would create a viewpoint on this clash or on this clash set. Okay, so I like that. Okay, so we can also choose to focus on clashes, animate transitions as well. I personally am not a fan of the animate transitions because you can see what it did. It's kind of cool what it does, but that like every little bit of time that takes, that's just wasted time. So I don't like that. If that's not a big deal when you've got 7 clashes, but that's a big deal when you got 700. You're going through this, looking at all these one by one, or bit by bit by bit. That little animation there, that 2-second animation, you put that over, let's just say 600 clashes. You do that 600 times, that's 10 minutes that you wasted. 10, 20 minutes, right? So it adds up quick. So I recommend not having that on. Okay, show simulation, I don't know what that one does. View in context. Let's see, what's that one do? Yeah, I would just have this one at all. We do want to have it view in context. So see, basically that one it's showing you, I guess, you can choose to do this one. It shows you what the surroundings are. Okay. So you can do that if you want. That's a manual thing. Okay. So we've got all those taken care of. Alrighty, so now let's walk this guy up. Okay, so we know what all these little display settings do. Got those set. So now let's look down here. Okay, so we can see we know what the red items are. Those are the architectural. Says it right here. You can basically see what your selection tree right here. And then you know what the green items are. It shows your selection tree right here as well. So it's the steel, right? Also, for a clash, when I pick just one clash, you can see, okay, wow, it's showing us our quick properties here. So this is a wall, and then this is a 12 by 26. That's 14 foot 11 inches tall, 11 and 3/4 inches tall. So it shows our quick properties right up here, in addition to our search set. So that's pretty cool, right? So you know exactly what's clashing. If it were a duct, it would tell you the size and all that jazz. Okay, so let's look at these up here, okay? Let's see, do we have any where... Okay, so yeah, let's look right here. So let's let me click on... Okay, yeah, great. So let's click on clash number 4. I think it should be clash number 4 for you guys. But basically, just a clash that involves this wall right here. Okay. It could be this beam right here that's going north south as well. Either one of those will work fine. So clash 4 or clash 6, either one. Okay. So let's say you wanted to find all the clashes revolving around one of these items. So right now I can see it doesn't look like there's anything else clashing with this, but I do know for a fact when I look at this that there are 2 things hitting this wall. So if I want to group those together, all I have to do is hit this button right here. So when I do that, you can see, okay, it grouped them together. We've got those 2 clashes right there. Then I've still got my other clashes over here, right? So this is pretty good. This is good for you because basically it's going to allow you to, again, this is why I dated this one so that, basically I could see, okay, here are all my new clashes that I haven't reviewed yet. Here's ones that I have. Okay. So let's mess with this one, okay? So this one's not really a clash, but it is going through a firewall. So let's just let's assign this. Let's assign this to steel, and then let's create a note. And our note should be needs fire caulking and or SFRM around wall penetrations. Okay, so you can see when I do that, and let's bring the comments up here so that we can kind of see them down here at the bottom. Okay, so when I when I click on this group, you can see my who it's assigned to, when I did the comment, and what it says. Right. Also, because I did that, it created a viewpoint, so we can see it was assigned by steel. Okay. All right, so I'm going to hide the comments there. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Okay, so now let's say, okay, I don't know where, let's just say there's a ton of them in here. I don't know where these clashes are. I don't know what number it is, and I don't feel like going through with a fine-tooth comb and looking for them. I just want to know, I want to group together everything that these 3 items touch. Okay, so I just select those items. I just click 1, 2, 3, and then I come up here to my filter by selection. And I'm just going to pick inclusive. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to create a new group. I'm going to call it Fire Chase. Then I'll just drag and drop those into the Fire Chase. Okay, so now I've got another group. Okay, so I could, if I wanted to, I could have grouped it just by this object or by this object, right? Or I could have, or like, I could filter things in and out, right? So now, if we look at these, okay, so I've got this clash that all interact with one another. This is, we'll just call this Mech Chase. Okay. Where is that one? Oh, that's weird. Okay. So, all right. So right here, we can see basically we've got a duplicate here. So here's what we'll do here. We'll kind of, I'll mark this one as approved. So you can see when I mark it approved, it goes from red to green, right? So now let's look at this one. Okay, so this one is also with the mechanical chase. So let's let's just drag and drop this one into the mechanical chase group. Okay. So essentially, what we've got right here, I've closed out like all of my new clashes right here, and then I've got 2 clashes, right? So I have not assigned this one yet, so let's just go ahead and assign it. So let's just click up here and hit assign, and we'll go assign to steel, and we'll say okay. So there we go. So I marked them basically the same, but there we go. So we've got that, right? Okay, so that right there is a microcosm of the in clash method. Okay, any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so we've got that. So again, why would you use this? You would use this because everybody has access to Navisworks Manage on your project, and so basically all the information's in here. All they have to do, you just save it. You save this. So we just save, and then we go file save as, and we save this as today. This is today's NWD file. We just put that on an FTP site. Everybody downloads it. They can review it, and they can they can just basically you can sort things based off of what their who they're assigned to. So if I so see right now this one says varies, but basically we've got steel. So see, you can sort it like that. So then basically all they have to do is just go through the ones that are assigned to them. Okay. So this is really clean. It's like you group things all together. You can go through it pretty fast. Even if there's like 700, you can either group them together by an object, or you can select the object and then hit inclusive and do it. Okay. So that's one method. Okay. So the next, and is it okay if we go about 10 minutes over? Okay, you're silent.
I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go and look at this 41 one right here. So let's look at electrical versus mechanical. Okay, so let's come down here to this one. We're going to do the we're going to do the viewpoint method here. Okay, so we've selected electrical versus mechanical. That's our report that we want to review. Okay, so again, same thing. I still want to review all of them at once, because again, I want to see how they interact, what all is happening. Okay, so I can see here, okay, we've got a cable tray going right here. It's hitting these three. Um, so these look like they're all at the same elevation. So that I could probably group those all together. And since these lights are there too, I can group that together as well, right? Then as I look down here, I can see that basically there's mass chaos between the lights and the ductwork. They're sharing the same space. So typically, what I would do is I would just say, "Hey, someone's wrong here." Okay, someone put, it's a typo or whatever. Someone needs to check what their elevation is because it's wrong. Okay, but for the purposes of this class, we're not going to do that. Okay, we're gonna actually divide these up. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with this cable tray one. Okay, so I'll just kind of zoom into it. Um, and again, I guess what I'll do is I'll select the cable tray, and then I'll select these lights as well. So again, I'm basically what I'm doing here is I just want to filter this stuff out. So all I'm seeing is just the stuff that's hitting um, the cable tray or the lights, right? I'm just going to hit a new group, and I'm just going to call this cable tray. Okay, same thing, just drag and drop them in. Okay, so there's one. I'll go back to none here. So we'll go back to that. Okay, so I've got that. So those are all gone. So next, this right here looks like it's the same. It's all one clash. So let's just pick this ductwork, all this stuff, right? So I've got all this selected. Same thing. I'll just hit inclusive, new group, and we'll say what is that? That is return error mech chase. Okay, so I'll push those in there. Okay, and then again, let's just say none. All right, so there we go. There's that. Okie doke. So these all look 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all think like branches coming off of that. So let's go ahead and select those. Okay, and then same thing. Inclusive up here. New group. We'll call this new group okay. I'll take my filter back to none and click back on my original. Right. So there we go. Let's do these three up here. These are all pretty close to one another. So basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to group these together both so that they match the same, I guess, objects, or it's all like the same line of ductwork, or they're just adjacent to one another. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to get it so that I've got a big picture, but it's not too close. It's just you can see the surroundings of the things. Just in the picture, you'll be able to see what you know everything around it. Okay, so I've got those. I'll just hit inclusive again. I'll just rename this one and we'll call this West R Air. Okay. I'll go back to none. Okay, so we've gotten those broken up. Okay, so let's see right here. Let's just zoom and let's take all of these lights right here and group those together. Same thing. We'll go to inclusive, new group, and we'll just say Southwest supply air. Okay. None. All right, so we've got now we're kind of getting down. We're dividing and conquering here. So let's do these. Again, it does. I'm picking the lights just because they're easier to pick. But you could conceivably pick anything that's touching either one of them. It could be the green or the red. I'm just picking the thing that's easier to pick. Okay, so again, go to my filter, inclusive, new group. We'll call this Southeast Supply Air. All right. There we go. So next we'll call it, I'll put those in there. This is supply main. Okay, so basically, again, you don't have to do this. You could have just gone through and, gone to each one of these and reviewed them, but I've broken them up. It didn't take very long. Now I can come in here, and essentially all that we're going to do is okay. So I'm in the results, and we're just going to go down here. I'm going to just go right down to select. Okay, so actually I'm going to stick in here. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mark this up. So I go into review. I'm just going to circle where the clashes are. Okay, and now I'm going to create a viewpoint, and I'm going to say, okay, this is where I do want to turn on my grid lines. Basically, okay, so I'll just say at column line 4, cable tray, I'll just say lower cable tray to miss duct. I'll say what? Let's review here. Let's see, how bad is the clash? 4 inches. So let's just say lower cable tray 6 inches. So you see where I got that? I'm just looking at my clashes here. My worst case scenario clash is 4 inches. So I'm saying drop it 6 inches and they should be fine. Okay, so there's one. So next, let me make sure that of course my clash doesn't have it. So I need to mark it up again. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, so we'll just go down. Here's the next one. Okay, so we've got our return air right here. Okay, so I'll save a viewpoint and I will mark it up. Okay, and so let's see, this is at column line C5. Let's see, well, actually, I'll just say C.5, comma 4 to 6. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Let's just take a look. Okay, so it's just the lights. There's not really anything around it, so it shouldn't be a problem. So I'll say lower lights. Okay, so next we'll go to this west one. So we need to have the entire clash in the view. Again, we'll go to save viewpoint, and this is at we'll just say C.5, comma 1. We'll say okay. So I'll click select here to review, and I'll see what's around it. Okay, so I can see basically. Okay, so it's right here. right here and right here. I could say lower. So in this case, we may need to So let's see. So I'll just we'll change it to red, I guess. Change it to move, the question mark. Okay. So we just keep going down the list. Okay, so let's take a look at these. Okay, so some of these don't seem to be a problem, like maybe lowering the lights, but this one right here looks like it's a big problem because it's also hitting the this pipe right here, right? So let's do two things here. So I'm gonna circle this one, and of course it doesn't show up on pink very well. So again, I cycle between aqua and red because typically they'll show up on just about one way or another. They'll show up on everything. Okay, so we've got that one, and I'll say. Okay, so let's see. We've got this one. This is at C. Where is it? Let's say C3. Light, storm, our return air, and HWCUW. Okay, so I've got a major issue there. So I'll also I'll kind of zoom out, and then I'll also say maybe right here we'll create a new viewpoint and near C3 lower lights question mark. And again, we'll review it. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next one. So this is near. Okay, so just to be different here, I'll assign this to someone else. Okay, so we've got that. I've got that one. I'll kind of speed this up here. Okay, so there we go. So next, same thing. Just say before. Okay, then finally this last one, I'll just circle that and I'll say okay. So let's talk about what I've done here. Okay, so I'll hide. I've got that. I've got my clashes basically done. That you get the idea. We went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, right? So why did I do what I did? Okay, so I I included a location on it. Okay, I marked it up, and I gave a description of or a suggestion. Okay, so it's very important. All three of those things are pretty important, right? So I I made a suggestion. I'm not telling them, I'm not directing anybody to do anything. My job as coordinator is not to direct anybody to do work. That is the project manager. That's his job to direct, or the superintendent, right? My job is to find the clashes and make a suggestion, make life easier for the 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 consultant or the subcontractor or whoever. So, that's why I have a question mark in there. If it doesn't make sense, if the lights are at the right spot, then maybe, um, you know, we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to discuss it during the meeting. Okay. So again, for every single one of them, I located it. I gave a suggestion for what to change, and then um, I marked it up. Okay. So now that I've got that, so I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to basically, okay, so I've got my here's all of my assignments for electrical. So I'm just going to drag and drop those into the electrical folder. Okay, where'd you go? There we go. And then you as well. Okay, there we go. So I've got my 4 electrical clashes right there. Okay, so now this one is a ductwork one. This is a ductwork. This is a ductwork one. Drag and drop those in. Okay. Now I've got my major clash. So, okay, so you see what I did? So now I've also assigned everybody their clashes. So this is their work. This is their work list. This is our discussion list during the meeting. Okay, so that's basically what I did. So the difference here is that in in the clash method, all of this information is taken care of. It's put in the results of the clash. Okay, but you can't always do that because not everybody has Navisworks Manage. So they need a way. Everybody needs a way to do all this. So I guess that's the solution right there is the viewpoint method. Okay. So one last thing. So why did I do a major clashes one? Well, this is like a one where I see a possible RFI. There's that, and or I don't really have a solution. There's a 52 car pile up here. A whole bunch of people are running are running into each other here. So this is something that we definitely need to discuss during the meeting. You see, I've got that first in my, you know, as part of my agenda. So I use like when I'm doing like this is my agenda essentially. I'm going straight down from top to bottom, major clash through all of these. Okay. And so the idea is, okay, if this needs an RFI, then I put, RFI on this. Okay. So I know that. So then once we write the RFI, I know, okay, this is RFI 410 or number 002, whatever. Okay, so I can come in here and basically I've got that noted. So once that RFI comes back, then I can tell people, okay, here we go, right? So I guess does that make sense? Any questions? That's pretty much it for me.
No, no question.
Okay, so those are the two major I guess workflows. The more typically used one is this viewpoint method here. Okay. Um, the the probably the better one is the in clash method, but not everybody has access to it, so you can't always do it. Um, so yeah, so that's it. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully everybody got to follow along as much as they could. Um, I've been recording this, so you know we'll I'll get it up to YouTube here hopefully later in the day. Okay, so thanks for following along, and I hope you learned something.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.